What's going on today? We will talk about the find command. The find command is used in Linux for various purposes. So we will talk about the find command today. What are the objectives of using the find command, the scenarios, and also we will talk about how to use it. So at the very first thing, why do we use the find command? The first reason is to search for files. So we can apply the find command to search for files in all the file system or in a specific directory. Next, we can search for directories. We can also use the find command to search for patterns of text, much like grep, right? So grep can be used to search for patterns of text as we saw in the regular expression video. So combined with the grep, the find command can be used to find patterns of text. We will have to include the grep command with the find command in order to find patterns of text. And of course, we can also use regular expressions to search for the patterns. These are the most three common uses of the find command. So in general, you can use it for your day-to-day operations, for IT operations, or even you can use the find command to search for malicious files if you are a blue teamer, or you can use the find command also to search for files. The most common example is in privileged escalation, where we search for first we search for files that have plain text passwords, right? Or we search for files that have the suid bit set. Suid. The suid bit set, as I explained before, it is the actually a way to execute a file or binary as its owner. So if you see a file that is owned by root, okay, and has permissions such as read, write, execute, and has S in here in the owner, it means this file has the suid bit set. We can search for these kind of files using the find command. Okay, so now we took a brief on why do you use the find command. Let's talk about how do we use it. So the very first thing, we can use the find command to search by username. So for example, we can search for files owned by a specific user using the switch -u, -u for example, admin. So we search for files where admin is the owner of the file. We can also search by file size. So basically, if you're going to search by size, we're going to have to define the size in numbers, and also we're going to have to define the size in bytes or kilobytes or megabytes. So to search by size, we use the dash size in find, okay, and at the right we define number and unit. So the units can be, for example, let me pick another color. Let's take the red, blue one. So n is a number, okay, it's a number. Next we define the unit. The unit could be C. Let me remove this one, I don't like this. So then comes the unit here. So here we can put C. It is for bytes, and we can also use, or we can use K for kilobytes, and lastly we can use M for megabytes. Okay, so if you want to search for a file whose size is say 50 megabytes, we can say 50 megabytes. That's how it works. Of course, include the switch dash size. Okay, now what if we want to search by permissions? So by permissions, we can use the switch dash perm. So by saying dash perm, we're telling the find command to search by file permissions. Of course, after the dash perm comes the permissions itself. So the permissions can be written either in symbolic form. I think I have to remove some stuff from here, so let me remove these. Okay, so dash perm. After the dash perm, we put in the permissions itself. So it can be either in symbolic form or in octal form. So octal form, I would say dash perm, say 644, or I can say here u equal r. What does this mean? If I say dash perm and u equal r, I'm telling the find command to find, of course depending on the context, files or directory where the user or the owner has read access. If I use this, it's the same, but it is actually here in the octal format. So you have either to go with u with the symbol or the octal. So basically for symbol, we have the u for the owner, we have also g for the group, and we have o for others. So we put equal sign, and then we use here read or write or execute depending on the permissions we're looking for. Okay then, what if we want to search by the name? So to search files or directories by the name, I'm going to put an arrow here like this. Okay, we use dash name, okay, and double quotes, we put in here the name. Here comes the name. It looks like a smiley, right? So here put in the name. It's very important to include the name in double quotes to avoid any kind of false positives or inaccuracies in the file names. Say if you want to search for file names, but you want it to be case sensitive. For case sensitive search, we use dash I name. This is for case sensitive. All right. Now, what if we want to search for the last modified access time? So here we use, say, dash. Okay. Now, if I want to search for files for the time or last access time, accessed, right? For access, I use a, and here I use time. Time refers to time in days. If I want to search for minutes, last accessed minutes, a, and here I put minute. The same goes for modified. For modified, instead of a, I use m, dash m time, or dash m minute. Okay, is this all? Of course not. After we define last access or modified, for example here dash a time, and then I put here the number. The number can be followed by dash or minus or plus, depending where I'm going forward or backward in time. So say I want to search for files modified in the last 10 days. Modified in the last 10 days. So since I'm using days, I'm going to use the time here. All right. In the last 10 days, so we have 10 here. Okay. So 10 days and before 10 days. So I would use minus in the last 10 days. If I'm saying after 10 days, then I need to switch, or instead of minus, I would use the plus. Okay, so you have to use minus or plus depending whether you're going backward or forward in time. Now, say I want to search for files that have been accessed right in the last or more than 30 minutes ago. More than 30 minutes. So first, accessed, I use a, minutes. This is the one I'm going to use. So dash a accessed in minutes, and then I have 30. Since I am saying more than 30 minutes, I'm going to use plus here. So search for files or directories that have been accessed in the last 30 minutes. That's how we search by using the last modified or access time. So there you go. Now we're gonna have a practical scenario where we're gonna apply all of this in action. So this is my Kali machine ls. Okay, so I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go to the main directory, search all the file system. So find. Let's take an example. Find. As next after the find, I define the location of, or the location that will be subject to my search, where I am searching, which location. If I want to search all the file system, I'm gonna use slash. If I want to search in the current location, say I am at desktop or documents, I'm gonna use dot this search in the current location. If there is an explicit path you would like to show here, you can type in the path after the find command. So path user, for example, bin. This way I'm telling find to search in this directory. Okay, now let's remove this one and search in all the file system. Okay, let's start by searching with the name criteria. So I'm looking to search by name now, and I have to define what I am looking for. What is the type of the object I'm looking for? Is it file? Is it directory? So we define this using the dash type. Dash type, I tell find whether I'm looking for file or directory. For file, I use F. For directories, I use D. So say I'm looking for files. Now, if I want to specify the file name, I use dash name. And between double quotes, I define in the name. Now, here you have 3 options or 4 options. Actually, 2 options. So you can always explicitly state the name, such as name.text. All right. Or you can use the wildcards. Say you want to search for files with specific extension, such as .php. Find all the PHP files under this location. So in this case, you would use the wildcard followed by the extension. This way you search for PHP files the same way you search for text files or specific extensions. Now, if you want to search for files whose names start with a specific string, you will then include this at the very first of the word. So basically what I would do here, say I'm looking for files that start with the hash, okay, and anything that comes after the word hash, I don't care, so I would use the wildcard. This way I search for all the files, okay, that or whose names start with hash, and anything else after hash we don't care. Okay, say I want to search for specific or for files that contain a specific word in their names. For example, spot me or find me all the files where the word exploit is mentioned. So what do? I use 2 wildcards. Between the wildcard I use exploit. This way it means I am signaling to find that the name I'm looking for contain the word exploit and might contain some other strings or characters before or after the word exploit. That is the use of wildcards in the names. Let's now find all of the PHP files. So .php. Now, sometimes you don't have higher permissions in the system where you're looking for files. So you want to avoid any errors that would come out of permissions denied statement, something like that. So you would direct this to dev null. This means we are getting rid of the errors, or at least you're not showing them. Where is, okay, dev null. Okay, this way we're gonna look for PHP files now. I'm not gonna run all of the output, just to show some output. As you can see, all of the PHP files are being retrieved, and now I can know the path to all of the PHP files in my current system. So now we search by file name. How about we want to search by permissions? So if you want to search by permissions, we can use the same logic. So find, define in the location, define in the type. Let's now look for directories, use directories, all right, and dash perm. So after the dash perm, I put the permissions. So say I'm looking for directories where the permissions are, say, 644. Okay, this way I will list all the directories where the permission is 644. See now? Oh, I forgot something. To forward this to dev null. This way I'm looking to find the directories, all right, with exactly the specified permission 644, not more, not less. I'm looking for only 644. Now, suppose you want to look for at least 644 or higher. 644, maybe 777, maybe 655. So we would use the dash here. Okay, dash will tell the find to look for directories with at least 644 or higher. Let's see this. As you can see, many directories have been spotted with these permissions. Let's examine this one, the last one. Let's look at its permissions. No. Wait. This way. ls-la. This is the actions directory. As you can see now, read, write, execute. Now, sometimes, actually, I recommend you guys to be familiar with the notion of the symbolic or the map between symbolics, right, and the octal. So these actually, this is the symbolic form, and every letter corresponds to a number. Okay, so read write means 6, read alone means 4. So if you are not familiar with this, I recommend you guys to get yourself familiar with the mapping between the octal and symbolic form in the permissions. But instead, you can search, you can spot the same directory here using the octal form, the symbolic form. So here the actions directory, the owner is root, and the root has all of the permissions on it. Read, write, execute. So what we would do here, you say u equal read, write, execute. Okay, let's see this now. And let's grep for actions. See if we can grab this one. Type grep actions. I think we have to use dash here with at least read, write, execute. So, and grep the actions directory. So we have many actions in here. The one that we want under user share icons. So as you can see, it's here. So basically that's how we use the dash permissions way. But there is another use of the dash permissions switch in the find command. Let's get back to the original example. So this is it. Now, say I sometimes instead of dash, so dash for at least the specified permission or higher. Without dash, exactly look for the specified permission. Now, what if I say slash? Dash perm slash 644 will match the directories with any of the permissions set. What does it mean? It means it's going to look for directories with either 6 as the user, 4 as the group, or 4 as the others, with at least any one of them. If any one of them matches, it's gonna list you or display the directory with the specified permissions. So the directory doesn't have to be all 644. It at least has to be 6 as the user, or 4 as the group, or 4 as the others. That's the difference between slash and dash. Okay, then let's take an example. Say I want to search for files with the permissions 777. So dash perm, say 777, and don't forget the dev null. Okay, so now let's talk about searching or locating files using the user or by user. So say I'm gonna search in under home directory this time and looking for files where the user is my username. It's very easy and simple. So it's gonna retrieve all of the files where the owner is my username. Most of the files, as you can see, are under home my username here. Under my username, all of the files here are owned by my username. Jeez. Okay. So now let's now see how we can search for files using the last accessed modified time. So as I told you guys, we use find. Let's stick with the home directory for now. It has many files. Let's look for files and then look for the files that have been modified in the last 10 days. So first dash modified for M for modified in the last 10 days. For days we use time, and then we use 10. So not finished yet. In the last 10 days it means 10 or less. So I'm gonna use dash here. And so these are the files that have been modified in the last 10 days. Let's take a look at this one, for example, john.log. ls-la. So john.log, as you can see, last time have been accessed in 5 March. Time 1:38. It's actually indeed in the last 10 days. Now say you want to find files access in the last 10 days. Now sorry, this one is modified. Let's look now for files accessed in the last 10 days. So this one here, we're going to modify it. Instead of M, we're going to say A for accessed. So these were the files that have been accessed in the last 10 days. Let's take a look at this one. So john.pot 5 March. Okay, let's now look for files that have been accessed in the last 30 minutes. So the same command. Since we're looking for access, we're going to use A. Now minutes, replace time with minutes. Here are using the minutes as a criteria for the search. And in the last 30 minutes, we replaced 10 with 30. Since it is in the last 30 minutes, I'm going to use a dash. I don't think there are files that have been accessed in the last 30 minutes. Let's look. Oh, there is. All of these. Actually, we accessed them since we used the find command. So, a special case when you are using the time as your criteria in the search is when you look for files modified or accessed in the last 24 hours. So, how this goes. In the last 24 hours, if you're using the time here, the time in days as your criteria, you can use here 0. So 0 means in the last 24 hours. Instead, you would convert the hours into minutes, okay, and use here minutes and put in the number of minutes. Okay then. Now, sometimes we need to search for files or directories in a given file range. So suppose, for example, we're looking for files modified with exact or after time given in a specific format. For example, find / type f, let's say home here, f dash. So new, we use new here, new ERMT. So here we're looking for a specific date, for example 2022, and say here 05 March and 01, and then another one dash new, specify another date, say 2022, also say 05 this month and 08. So what I am saying here, look for files, okay, modified, right? Look for files that have been modified at exactly this date or after this date, but after this date where the end is at 8 March. So between 01 March and 8 March. Sometimes you would need to use this criteria. You specify a file date range. So this is the start and this is the end. Let's see here. Nothing. Okay, fine. What about you want to redirect the output? Say you don't want the output to be displayed here. So what do? Instead, you would redirect the output to a file. For example, the result of this search would be redirected to a file called search results. Okay, let me go to my directory then. I don't think I have permissions under this directory. That's why I couldn't create the file. All right, let's try the command now. Okay, ls. As you can see, we have a file now called search results. We can cat this file, and we can see the output here. So let's now talk about searching by size, searching by file size. So as I have specified previously in the board, we can use find /home /type t f, sorry, and then dash size. Let's say the size in 50 megabytes or 50, say, bytes. We can use 50 and c. Again, dev null. As you can see, these files have 50 bytes, or they are 50 bytes in size. Let's say I want to look for, let's revise the search. Instead of bytes, I would use megabytes, and I would use here the dash sign. So dash means look for files whose size is 50 megabytes or less. 50 megabytes or less. Execute. These are all 50 megabytes or less. Alrighty then. So that was for the file command. Of course, this is not an exhaustive brief. It's only a brief, sorry. It's an exhaustive tutorial. You can take it from here and research more about find command to get yourself familiar with it. A great example to get yourself familiar with the find command is to use, there is a room on tryhackme called find, I guess. Nope. Hide completed. Let's see here. I saw one here. Maybe I had completed the tutorial. Most popular. Let me refresh the tab. Get back. Oh, here it is. So this is a room that's actually, it's easy. You can get yourself familiar, learn the switches of the find command, and you can also answer the questions in here to get yourself more familiar with the find command. Great practice to join this room and learn the find command. So that was it, and see you in the next video.